everyone, my name is Lisa and today I'm going to be sharing 10 tips to stay full when you're on lower calories. If your goal is weight loss, you're going to need to be in a calorie deficit, which basically means you're burning more calories than you're eating. So a lot of the time that does mean that you need to be eating less and moving a little bit more. So I thought it would be useful to share some tips on how to stay fuller for longer. I'm pretty sure we've all been in the situation before where we've been on a diet and felt like really hungry a lot of the time, and you've ended up kind of going over your calorie intake. So hopefully this video will help you to stay within your calorie target, stay within that calorie deficit while still being full and satisfied. So tip number one is make sure that you're eating plenty of high volume foods. So these are foods that have a lot of volume for the calories. So think things like vegetables, fruits, things that are typically like quite low in calories that you can have a lot of. Obviously having these types of foods means that you can eat a lot of food for less calories. I'll put some examples on the screen so that you can see kind of the types of things that I'm talking about. By adding these foods, you're just essentially bulking up your meal for not really that many extra calories, but because you're eating a lot more, you're going to feel a lot fuller without any of the extra calories. Tip number two is try and avoid drinking too many of your calories. Drinks can be quite high in calories and they don't really make you that full in comparison to what food does. So things like hot chocolates, like creamy drinks from Starbucks, Costa, like juices, a lot of like shop bought smoothies as well can be really high in calories. And like I said, it's not really going to fill you up the same way that food would. So try not to use too many of your calories on your drinks and save it for the food, because that's going to make you a lot more satisfied and keep you a lot fuller for longer. Staying on the topic of drinks, for tip number three is make sure that you're drinking enough water. A lot of the time dehydration can be mistaken for hunger, so you might not actually need something to eat. You might just need a drink of water to kind of keep you going. Obviously water doesn't have any calories in it, so if you do feel hungry, try and have a drink of water first if that satisfies you, and then if not, then go on something to eat. But yeah, just kind of make sure that you're drinking plenty of water so that you're not getting dehydrated. Tips number 4 and 5, try and prioritise foods with lots of protein and lots of fibre. Both protein and fibre can keep you fuller for longer, so try and prioritise things like chicken, fish, eggs for your protein, then things like fruits, vegetables, grains, stuff like that for your fibre. Tip number 6 is eat little and often. So this one can be quite useful if you're feeling quite hungry throughout the day. If you're having like a big breakfast early in the morning, a big lunch at lunchtime, and then a big evening meal later on, you can often have like quite big gaps in between those where you're going to feel quite hungry. If that's the case, then try and kind of having smaller meals more often. So rather than having 3 big meals, maybe try and have like 6 smaller meals throughout the day, and then you're eating more often, so you're not going to have like the massive gaps in between your meals where you're getting hungry. Obviously, like I said, it's not for everyone. It's going to depend on like work schedules and stuff like that, but it can definitely be helpful if it's something that you're able to try. Tip number 7, try and avoid using too much oil when you're cooking. Oil is really high in calories. Just to put it into perspective, a teaspoon of olive oil works out at roughly 120 calories, and when you think of how much that is and like how much it's going to add to your meal, is it really worth 120 calories? Probably not. Using those 120 calories on something else is definitely going to keep you a lot fuller. You can get a lot of low calorie cooking sprays that are a really good alternative for oil. Obviously I know that there are some things that you need oil for, but just kind of bear it in mind. But if you are finding that you're struggling to stick within your calorie target without being hungry, it might be worth looking into it. Tip number 8, staying along the similar lines to the previous one, is you could try and opt for lower fat versions. So just as an example, cheese is quite high in fat, which means that it's quite high in calories. There are a lot of brands now that do like reduced fat versions that do still taste relatively similar to like the original, but with half the calories. So again, you're just kind of like saving calories that you can use elsewhere. They're on like an extra snack or like a bigger portion of something that again is going to help to keep you that little bit fuller. Tip number 9 is make sure that you're eating foods that you enjoy. When you're in a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose weight, it can be really tempting just to like cut certain foods out and like go for the healthier options, but a lot of the time they're not going to satisfy you if you're not enjoying it. So just as an example, I think the classic sort of like weight loss meal would be like chicken, veg and rice. If you don't like that, don't force yourself to eat it. You're much better off having something that you enjoy. I personally find anyways, a lot of the time when you enjoy something, it's going to satisfy you a lot more than if you don't enjoy it. So yeah, just kind of make sure that you're still having foods that you enjoy to keep you satisfied, and just make the process a lot more enjoyable for you. And finally, tip number 10 is try and have like a nice big hearty breakfast if you can. I know that breakfast isn't for everyone, but having a nice big meal at the beginning of the day can like really set you up. And if you have a nice big breakfast and you're like full from the beginning of the day, it's going to help keep you satisfied and you're going to be less likely to snack throughout the day. Obviously, like I mentioned, I know breakfast isn't for everyone. There are a lot of people out there that don't like eating early in the morning or like work quite early and all stuff like that. So I know this one's not going to be that useful for everyone, but if you can, then definitely try and like have a nice big breakfast to set you up for the day. And